Tomorrow we'll be in Fort Wayne, Indiana for a town hall with Elizabeth Warren, a state that Donald Trump carried by almost 20 points. Now, there's no real sense Indiana itself will be a swing state next time around. And Trump supporters continuing to support Trump has become a kind of micro-genre of political reporting in this era. But it is also the case that at the margins, adverse policies from the Trump administration, particularly the escalating trade war, are having a very real, on-the-ground destructive effect across rural America. And some farmers are getting fed up. All-in correspondent Trymaine Lee went to Gaston, Indiana, to talk to one.
Who did you vote for in 2016?
I voted for Trump.
Did you believe that Trump would be good for farmers?
It was just the lesser of two evils, in my opinion.
Jason Mock is a fourth-generation farmer. He grows corn and soybeans on the 3,000-acre farm in northeast Indiana that his family has owned for nearly 80 years.
My grandpa spent his entire life paying for each one of these silos, paying for tractors, paying for land. There's a big part of that is we just don't want to change. So we just want a president that comes in that allows us to keep doing what we've always done, because I've done this for so long, and by golly, that's what I do.
This year has been tough for Indiana farmers. Heavy rain and flooding has saturated the soil, making it impossible to plant crops. And that's on top of Trump's trade war. In 2017, Indiana farmers exported over $1 billion of crops, like soybeans and grains, to China. A year later, that dropped by 78%. And now Trump just bailed out farmers for the second time in 6 months. When you think about the previous aid package and then $16 billion now, does that signal to farmers that Trump is good for farming?
I mean, you could put a monkey in charge and he can write checks.
I have directed Secretary Perdue to provide $16 billion in assistance to America's farmers and ranchers. China has openly stated they're going to use the farmer. The reason is because I got the farmers' votes. You look at a map, it's all red, meaning Republican, meaning Trump.
So when you hear the president talking about $16 billion in aid, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Crumbs on the floor, food stamps, welfare.
I don't know. You don't like any of those things?
No. I mean, as a farmer, we want to be independent, and the perception of the public, it doesn't look good. We feel like, you know, we don't need it.
So the trade war may have complicated things, but also Mother Nature hasn't been cooperating with you guys, right?
We can't get a crop in the ground. We've had above average rainfall starting with a hurricane last September, and we just have not dried out. I saw a stat that the United States has had the most rainfall ever in the last 8 months.
With all the uncertainty around weather and global trade, Malk set aside a large part of his farm to develop innovative farming methods.
We're all trying to work the best with what we have, but it's different than it was 25 years ago. But I think that a lot of our policies are just trying to preserve and protect old ways instead of letting innovation happen and flourish.
2020 is around the corner. Will you be voting for Donald Trump again?
Most likely no.
Why not?
It was just more of a defensive move last time. I felt like I was throwing my vote away, but now I just feel like that eventually we need change just away from the two-party system.
And you send a message by voting in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
And joining me now is Trymaine Lee. That was a great package, Trymaine. I learned a lot from that. One factual question. So is he going to take the money? I mean, is there an actual check being written to farmers like this guy?
He reluctantly said he will be taking the money simply because if his competitor or his neighbors are getting the aid money, then it gives them a competitive advantage. So he said reluctantly he'll take it. But quite frankly, he sees these payouts and the aid and the subsidy, the way farmers are subsidized today, simply as stifling innovation. So he's taking it, but he really, in his heart of hearts, I don't think he wants to.
You know, there's one thing you said there that really caught my ears. And when you look at the map, right, we've got historic flooding, National Weather Service saying there's going to be more and more of that hitting records. Innovation in terms of things have to change. Like, is there an active sense that the farming is going to have to change as we move into the era that we're in now, climate-wise.
When you see the issues with climate change and storms coming harder and more frequent, many farmers will say something has to change, but those numbers are small. Quite frankly, there seems to be an age gap. When you have the average age of a farmer is over 60, much more than the under 35 crowd. And so the younger folks who grew up on smartphones and are more aware of the climate concerns, not just the way they play politically, but how it impacts the actual farming, those voices are quite frankly dimmed. But he's one of those young guys who he started out in farming his whole life, fourth generation, went away to be a marketer, but his father died young at 53, came back home to work the family farm, and he says the way things are run now, simply not sustainable.
I wonder about people like Jason because, we know that places like Indiana, which are strong, politically supportive of the Republican Party and Donald Trump, how many Jasons are there out there, right, at the margins who just, at some point, if the trade war keeps going, if it keeps being bad, starts to really make an impact in how people think about their vote?
It's hard to say at this point. I mean, Jason clearly has a strong libertarian streak, so he's like,
yep.
You know what, we need to do away with both parties and find a new way that we can sustain ourselves. But otherwise, it's cultural, right? People have been, as Jason said, doing the same thing generation after generation, and it's part of who they are. And kind of going back to the idea of stifling innovation, there's like crop insurance. When you can't get your seeds in the ground by a certain point, you will get a subsidy. You'll get paid out for that. But there's nothing you can do with those crops, right? So you have this extreme kind of confluence of issues, and it's not sure how it plays out politically yet, but Jason for sure said he's not voting for Trump.
All right, Trymaine Lee, thank you so much. That was great. That is all in for this evening. Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.